You're watching Daybreak, reaching you live from the nation's capital in Abuja. Now, like we told you, today is Valentine's Day. And this day is, known for a lot of things. A lot of things come to bear when we talk about Valentine. But historically, when we go back to the feast, the Roman feast that, all started the whole Valentine's thing, certain things usually happen. A goat and a dog were sacrificed by men, and on these days, and women were whipped with the hides of the sacrificed animals, as it was believed that it will make them fertile. So this is one of the practices in those days. Remember, we told you that there was this feast of Lupercalia that takes place between 13th to 15th of February in the Roman times. And this is one of the practices in those days. Now, also, a matchmaking lottery will also be carried out, where men will draw names of women from a jar, and they will be coupled up together for the entire duration of the festival. Now, these are some of the practices in those days. Now, this feast was now replaced by what we now know today as the Valentine's Day. And so you could see where, the link is coming from as to how people perceive Valentine and how it is being celebrated. But largely in our days, in these current days, it is known for a day that signifies, love, sharing, among family, friends, and the likes. So we'll be talking about that. And, usually it comes with certain implications. We have Dr. Daniel Ndukwe. He is the Deputy Director, National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA. And he'll be talking to us, about, some practices that we see on this Valentine's Day. Good morning and welcome to Daybreak.
Good morning. Thank you very
Happy
much.
Valentine's Day.
Thank you.
And I hope that you are planning a date of some sort with your loved one.
Yes, my wife is there watching me closely, so I will pick it from there on after work.
Oh,
Lovely.
Because she understands coming to work is also showing love, because I have to make food available for
Right.
That's very interesting, really. Now, talk to us about your own perspective about this day, Valentine. A lot of stories really about Valentine's Day.
Honestly, I have tried to read around it. You just give one perspective. There's another one that talks about a Roman Catholic priest in those days. And according to the story, there was a king who was against some form of marriage. He stopped people from marrying. So he was wedding them in secret. And then, according to that story, the name of the priest is Saint Valentine. So people celebrate him for really protecting marriage when I don't know whether it's also Roman Empire that didn't want that community to be getting married and so on and so forth.
Claudius, the Emperor Claudius II.
Sometimes people don't know the history behind a thing, and then sometimes they also take it so far, too far. If you look at any time there's a kind of festive period, there appears to be something in the air that make people want to sometimes lay down their guards, go, sometimes throw their reasons off the window. For example, if you talk of Christmas, a lot of people think it's time to blow all their savings they have made up through the year. You talk of Valentine, they say love, and then if it's okay, if I use the word love, they love irresponsibly. Just like some people say, drink responsibly. So they love irresponsibly. And in our modern time, when you talk of love is now reduced to sexual activity without values, without commitment. So there are quite a lot of things, and that's why the agency thinks on this kind of day we should tell people, if you must get involved in sexual intercourse, please make it to be as safe as possible.
Okay, I'm really keen on why, usually we know people, have sexual intercourse and all of that, but why Valentine? What is so special about the one that happens on Valentine's Day?
What makes it special is because they say it's Love Day.
Lover's Day.
Yeah, when you say it's Lover's Day, that's when lovers should show love to one another. But then the question now will be, how do you show that love? You can show love to a lover, you can show love to other people. There are people who are in need, you can give word of advice, you can give material things, you can visit motherless baby home. These are different ways of showing love. But especially for young people, that must not be the way they want to show love. Okay, imagine somebody is in a relationship and they say, today is Lovers Day, how do you show me love? Maybe the girl has been saying, no, I don't want to get involved in sexual intercourse. You could say, no, today is a special day. Every other person is doing it. Pressure will come because there's something in the atmosphere that say, for today, show love. And how do you show love? Most people have reduced it to sexual intercourse. So that's why I think is very good for us to keep drumming this. We know that sex is an instinct in man, but if we are not in control of that instinct, it could cause a lot of damages. There are so many sexually transmitted diseases out there, HIV, hepatitis, especially B and C, doing a lot of harm. There are so many other ones, syphilis, gonorrhea, name them. And then they have, some of them can actually lead to death if they're not well treated. If they don't lead to death, they can actually damage the reproductive system of the individual. You hear of people saying a woman has fallopian tube, the man has gonorrhea that has even made it difficult to urinate. There are so many complications that can come from that. So that's why we keep saying you can still abstain even on the day of Valentine. Okay, you can abstain. There's so many ways, like I mentioned, you can show love. I'm actually showing love here to my family because I work hard, not just for myself. You can show love to Nigeria if you are patriotic. But if it's come to showing love to your lover, fine, and you can't abstain, we'll say, you know what? Try to have a lover that is, faithful to you, you're also faithful to the person. Because if you're faithful to somebody who is not faithful, the person can also get sexual transmitted disease and bring to you. Then now that, like I mentioned earlier, a lot of love, in quote, or love making without commitment is rife in our society. So what I will say again is, fine, if you're not sure that your partner is faithful to you, then please use a condom consistently and use it correctly. Because this one day of Valentine that people tend to lay down their guard might open up opportunity for somebody to get infected with various kind of diseases that can actually change the course of your life significantly.
All right, now talking about sexually transmitted diseases, when HIV and AIDS first came, there was this scare, people, are very mindful. People do not want to associate with people with HIV. In fact, it led to some kind of stigmatization of people with HIV and all of that. But do you think that in these days, maybe HIV is not as dangerous as people used to look at it, and so there's a change in behavior in terms of recklessness, and engaging in certain kind of practices?
Yes, certainly it's not as dangerous as it used to be, not because the virus has suddenly become less dangerous, but because we have gotten some effective treatment. Okay, so people can live their normal life, and that's why it describes someone as somebody living with HIV. The HIV is in the virus, but with the drug it is controlled. But if I remember when I was a house officer, and then a patient was admitted with HIV. You keep managing, treating diarrhea, treating all the symptoms, all the signs, but you are not treating the virus because we didn't have the medications in Nigeria then. So then it used to be certainly a death sentence because after a number of months or years, the person eventually packs up. But with the treatment, people look healthier than you and I, yet they're living with the virus. But when it comes to stigma a lot of time is a function of ignorance or wrong knowledge. We know how HIV can be transmitted. It's either through sexual intercourse, which is the commonest way it is transmitted in the country. It could be from an infected mother to the baby, especially if she's not taking antiretroviral drugs. So that can happen. It could be when you share sharp objects, if you also transfuse or save blood. But apart from this way, you don't get it from shaking hand. So people tell you, I got it from toilet. Nobody gets HIV from toilet, sharing toilet. It doesn't happen. Some people have heard of people who are infected, and their family members will say, this is your own cup, this is your own plate. Don't share the rest of the cutleries or utensils with members of the family. That's also ignorance, because eating food, if I even take one spoon and give you, if any of us is infected, you cannot get transmitted. So when people understand and come to believe how it is not transmitted, then they cannot know how to relate to people. I've also had instances where people are screened. You want to work in a hotel. They say, no, because you have HIV. What has working in a hotel got to do with HIV? Even a food processing plant, they'll say somebody has HIV, shouldn't work there. Why wouldn't the person work there? If it is something like hepatitis A, which can be transmitted through saliva, then that's a different thing. But hepatitis B, C, HIV, you can't transmit it. So why do you deny that person work? So you see, all those stigma has another effect, because it now makes the person who's infected to be scared and then don't come out to get treatment. And then that can also lead to transmission to other people in the society. So stigma, discrimination isn't doing us any good.
Okay. So now let's talk numbers. Would you say the number of HIV, patients in Nigeria is rising, or it's more on decline presently?
All right. So when you ask the question about the number, it's a bit tricky. If our number decreases suddenly, it might also mean that people who are infected died significantly. So, but what we used to measure is to say the rate of infection, or what they call incidence rate, the number of new infections in a year. Is it rising or is it decreasing? So for us as a country, it is decreasing.
Oh, that's great.
Because it doesn't have a cure, when somebody is infected and that person is put on treatment, we expect you to live your life through. But you see, you're always being counted as somebody who's living with the virus. But if the rate of new infection is decreasing, then that means we are actually making good progress. And for us as a country, yes, the rate of infection is coming down.
Oh, that's
yes,
great.
it's coming down. So we're making progress. And the NICE survey that was done has actually brought the prevalence. That means the total number of people, the ones we know, the ones we don't know, projected to be living with the virus is put around 2 million plus. So we're doing well. There was time the estimate used to be around 3 million. Yes.
All right. Now, how is the impact of COVID-19 on people living with, HIV and AIDS? Some have said there's, high rate of fatalities, on people who are living with, HIV and AIDS, and all of that. Is that?
Yeah, no, studies
correct?
haven't shown any significant risk to somebody who's living with HIV if that person gets co-infected with COVID. Especially if that person living with HIV is on treatment. I mean, receiving his antiretroviral drugs, and then the immune response would have bounced back, okay, to something that at least significant enough to keep that person healthy. But the impact of COVID we saw as a country, and then we devised some strategy to deal with, will be how do you even get your medication? You remember in the days of COVID, in those days, there was total lockdown. So how do you move commodities? How does the client access service delivery points? Because sometimes the worker is even scared. Anybody that comes down with fever, you don't want to attend to the person because it could be COVID, all right? But we didn't see any statistic that shows significant death among those living with HIV in Nigeria from COVID, no. We can't say we saw anything significant. So, except if that person has some other disease conditions that put you at risk, like maybe some chronic lung diseases or some other diseases, diabetes. Okay. Otherwise, if you just HIV, especially controlled, there's no significant risk that we have seen.
All right. Now, what are some of the practices that, safety practices that you will want to urge our viewers to have, especially, when I recall in those days there's this jingle about HIV, they show for face, that like it's been said, in local parlance. So these days you have more healthier people, you never really know. Who is living with, the virus. And so what are the safety practices that, you want Nigerians to maintain?
I will, especially in this time of Valentine, I will want everybody to really sit up, including the parents. I wanted to digress that before I come back to your question. The reason is so many parents are in denial. So many guardians are in denial. The survey we did showed that quite a good proportion of Nigerians have had sex before the age of 15. And then, so to a parent, that might be those children now, they are not my own child, I'm sure of my child. So I want parents to engage their children, talk to them about Valentine. What does it mean? What does showing love mean? How do you show love with or without commitment? Discuss sexuality with your children. And the reason is this: when you don't discuss it with them, they get to learn about sexuality from sources that might not bring the message in the way you would have loved to bring it as a parent. All right? A young person can tell another young person, you may have not had sex, you're a Jew person. That means you're not a woman, that means you're not a man. If you want to be a woman, then you must get involved in sexual intercourse. But I'm sure if a parent wants to tell the child about sex, you want to tell him certain values, whether in your culture or in your religion, the person has to carry along. That is one. And then number two, I don't believe any parent wants any of his child to get down with any of the sexually transmitted diseases.
Oh, no.
So I suspected the parents would have said, well, do this, but if for any reason, which I don't approve of, you must get involved in sexual intercourse, please make sure you make your condom, use it. Because a lot of young people, there was a study that was done by the agencies who were supported by one of our partners. We found that young people will rather preserve the relationship or rather place it at a greater value to their health. Because they said a girl or a young girl said, for instance, that rather than lose my relationship, I'd rather offer that sex. So you get what I'm trying to say. So they place value on that, their relationship. So if they must get involved in sex, let them make it safe. Let them use condom. If the person tell you I'm faithful to you, I don't want to believe so. Even in marriage, some people are not faithful. I talk more outside of marriage. So they must use condom every time. And then anytime, any round, they must use condom. So that is part of what we say. If they use it consistently and correctly, it tends to protect them. Sometimes when we talk this way, parents feel like we say, you are telling the young people, go and be having fun. That's not what we're saying. But we're saying quite a lot of them are already having fun. So if they're having fun, let's make it safe for them. And parents also step in to bring the values. Let's redefine what love means. Love, you hear words like love making. So when you're having sex or making love, is that what it really means? If there's no commitment, somebody does not take responsibility, again, because pregnant, the boy says, I don't know you. That kind of stuff. So we need to really teach young ones, and they also teach them to withstand peer pressures. This is the time to engage them in discussions. So I should expect any parents listening out there to call your children, especially your teenagers, ask them, what do you understand by Valentine? What do you understand by love? How do you show love? How do you protect yourself? Because in showing love, you don't protect yourself, then that's like suicide. All right. Indeed. So even in showing love, protect yourself. Yeah. So those are some of the narratives we want to put out there for people to listen. So now we must keep emphasizing. And good enough, yesterday was World Condom Day. So World Condom Day before the Valentine. So I expect any person that wants to drive on Valentine's Day should have prepared, put gas in your car yesterday to make long distance journeys. Is that not so? Right. So you should have gotten your condoms ready if you must get involved in sexual intercourse before, the Valentine's Day.
But advisedly, most preferable abstain, isn't it?
Abstinence, yes. Now, why I've had so many people talk about abstinence, they say it's not effective. It's not effective as per preventing transmission of disease. They say it's not effective because the people don't want to abstain. It's not really true. There are quite a lot of people that are abstaining. And you also ask yourself, why are young people not abstaining? It's also because we have not also helped them to form their identity. Abstinence should not only be looked at from the perspective of sexual intercourse. Young people go into drugs because of pressure, peer influence. So if we're able to engage with them, and I keep putting parents in the center of the whole thing.
Okay.
Yeah, because if they're able to do so, the people are able to abstain from anything that can jeopardize the life of the child. So abstinence is very key and it's good.
Yeah.
Well,
thank you so much for coming.
Quite very
Thank you.
interesting.
Yes, and very enlightening, really.
Right.
We appreciate you on the program. We thank you. We look forward to having you again.
Thank you very much.
Yes. We've been speaking with Dr. Daniel Ndukwe. He's the Deputy Director, National Agency for the Control of AIDS, NACA. Well, with that, we've come to the end of the show for today.
Very, very, very interesting discussion today on the program. It's been quite interesting. If you've missed, you can catch up with us across all our social media platforms.
Once again, happy Valentine's Day.
Happy Valentine's Day.
You celebrate responsibly. That's
Yeah.
all we appreciate. Well, my name is Ayuba Ilya.
And I'm Zainab Bala.
We'll
See you tomorrow.
Tomorrow. Bye.